Welcome into NHL Tonight. First shift for a Wednesday, November the 6th, 2024. EJ Hradek alongside making his first shift, Mr. Devil, my buddy, Kenny Daneyko. Welcome.
Great to be here, Age. Love chatting hockey with you.
Yes, you do. We've done it before.
And on the phone, late nights.
At the arena, when you were
always
playing,
just here at the
by your
studio.
stall in the old days. Like, what's going on? Are we picking up any players? I don't know.
Can't get enough.
Yeah,
Love
there you
it.
go. You do. You do. You have such great passion for the game. I want to start. We had a scary moment in the league last night involving the St. Louis Blues and their young forward, Dylan Holloway. He's going to get hit with this puck in the neck, and he continues to play on, but he knows right away that he's not right, and he goes to the bench. You can see it again. The shot by Nick Paul just catches him. He grabs for the side of his throat there. He goes to the bench, and boy, oh boy, he was in some trouble there. Luckily, everything went okay. He talked about it today.
I feel good today. Yeah, I feel way better. Obviously, it was a scary situation. From what I've been told, the puck hit my vagus nerve in my neck, and as soon as I got hit, I knew something was a little off. But then I saw we got a 2-on-1, so couldn't pass up that opportunity. But as soon as I got to the bench, I was feeling a little woozy, and then I didn't really remember much from there until I was on the stretcher close to the ambulance. So the way it was compared to me is, I don't know if you ever watch UFC, but sometimes a guy will get like into a chokehold and get choked out in like 2 seconds, and I don't know, you kind of wonder why, can you not just hold his breath? But it's not about holding your breath. It's just that nerve. Like, you get hit in the nerve, and you just go out. So.
And here is a tweet from Jeremy Rutherford with the showing that mark you can see on the side of his neck. But the good news, Dano, is he's okay.
Yeah, great to see a smile on his face.
Yeah, he looks fine.
After a scary situation that he had mentioned, no question about it. Anytime you get a puck anywhere near the neck area, facial area, we always hold our breath.
Yeah.
But fortunately for Dylan Holloway, looks like he's going to be fine and ready to go next game for the St. Louis Blues, and he's played really well there.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Nice pickup as
pickup
a offer sheet player coming over from the Edmonton Oilers. And again, a quick shout out for the medical people in the building and to the Blues staff. Years ago, they dealt with something that was even more significant with Jay Bouwmeester, and they rose to the occasion again. So great job by the medical team there with the St. Louis Blues. Let's get some happier news from last night. The Winnipeg Jets, Dano. They do it again. They shut out the Utah Hockey Club 3-0. They're now 12-1 on the season, almost perfect. They've got 10 players with 10 or more points on the year. Everybody's contributing. The power play is at 44.4%. The goalie's stopping everything. But really, Dano, it's a lot like it was last year for the Jets. You look back, they had 110 points last year. They gave up the fewest goals in the league.
Yeah, but did anybody think going into this year, again, we always question the Winnipeg Jets.
Right.
For whatever reason, just like we do our analysis in September, preseason, saying they're going to be a pretty good team, but what are they going to be? How good they're going to be? They have an all-world goaltender. Yep. Can they get balanced scoring? Well, they've done all that and then some to start the season. 6-0 on the road to start the year is remarkable. I know they've only lost one game, and that was at home, but every phase of their game is clicking the way you'd want it to. I don't know if that's sustainable, whether it's PP, PK, goals for, goals against, all near the top. Hellebuck's, one of the elite goaltenders. Yeah. We know that. He's been terrific as well, but it's just the balanced scoring, and just when you get contributions from everybody and their top guys are playing like top guys like Scheifele and Kyle Connor, it's a fun team to watch, and they play the game the right way. We will see how it goes the rest of the way. Every team wants a good start. This kind of solidified them now already. Yeah. I would say right now, they're a playoff team now, 100%, because it's hard to make the playoffs in this league.
That's right. I mean, they're already at 24 points, right? Last year they had 110. I mean, we're only through, not even a shred of the season, right? Like 6 weeks. So there's plenty of time to go to even add more. But again, I go back to it. 110 points last year. This is a good team. The question will be, Dano, come April, can they raise their level against whoever it is they face? Because we saw last year the Colorado Avalanche, their first-round opponent, were able to raise their game And even though they lost game 1, the Avalanche won the next 4, and they weren't even that close. No. So can the
Jets... They have way
Jets...
too many goals for a team that last year led the league during the regular season, what you mentioned.
Yeah, it was leaky in the playoffs. Leaky.
Yeah. And it's always a combination. Yeah, Hellebuck's got to be better, but they weren't as good in front of them like they were during the regular season, like they are right now again. Haven't missed a beat from last year in the regular season, and have even taken it to another level. But they're an elite team right now. Yeah. There's no question about it, and it allows them to have that tough stretch that every team usually goes through in the season when you start 12-1.
You know what? Look at that schedule right there, Dano, because the Avalanche are next, then the Dallas Stars, then the New York Rangers, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Florida Panthers defending Stanley Cup.
So you're telling me we'll see if they're real after this little gauntlet.
This is the stretch of games now that will test them. And I think the teams that they're coming to town, or whether the teams are coming to play them, they know the Winnipeg Jets have been on fire, and they got to bring their best game. It's a good test. So I think for the teams in this run, those will be good games. And for the Jets, let's see where they are at the end of this 5-game stretch, because that's a challenge. I just got finished watching Florida and Dallas play over in Finland. Dallas played well, but Florida is looking like they did last year in the playoffs, and they won the Stanley Cup. So that'll be a real challenge for Winnipeg.
It will, because there's a target on their back now. With the start that they've had, every team's on high alert when they come in that we'd better be at our best playing the Winnipeg Jets, because they don't lose, because they haven't. They've lost once.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love that you brought up Florida and Dallas. I mean, two teams going into the season that everybody thought are going to be elite, could meet in the Stanley Cup Finals. Florida could be there again. Sometimes Stanley Cup teams have a hangover, don't start so well. That's not the case with the Panthers. And they took it to Dallas there for a couple of games. So I'm sure they weren't too happy with it, the Stars, as many of us thought they're the best team out west amongst a few other teams there. But you always have benchmarks early in the season, middle of the season, whatever it may be. And, yeah, Dallas will move on and rectify it. But right now, the Winnipeg Jets are
they're top team.
Supremacy in the West.
Yeah, 12-1. So we'll see if they can keep it rolling. They got Colorado coming up next. How about the LA Kings? Because, they're a team that had the long road trip. They played a lot of road games. Here they're in a spot, second of a back-to-back. After they get a win in Nashville, I'm figuring this is a tough spot. Minnesota's playing really well. And the LA Kings fly into Minnesota and just dust off the Minnesota Wild 5-1. That's an impressive victory for Kopitar and the boys.
It really is, especially back-to-back. You don't know how teams handle that at times. Some teams, it means nothing. I always think it is so overrated from the standpoint we use it as an excuse a lot of the time. Not the teams so much, but the media and even us guys covering certain teams. You've got to be a team that can win back-to-backs. But to go into Minnesota, who's another team that's
playing really well.
Terrific. Trevor Lewis, congratulations to him. I think he got his 99th and 100th goal in his career,
all right.
I believe.
Yeah, he's
if I'm not mistaken. He's been that role guy. I always respect and have to give shout-outs to guys that just play hard, do whatever it takes, for
had a long career.
Had a long career.
Started in L.A.
Won a
cup. Part of those teams,
Cups with them. They just 100 and 101st. Excuse
there you go.
But he broke the 100 barrier. But just that utility, strong role player that you have to have success. It's not just about the star guys. If you don't have the right role players on your team, and it's tough to win, especially down the stretch and in the playoffs, as we know. But good for him. The Kings look good.
Are you surprised at all? Because I wasn't so sure about the Kings. I mean, the goaltending, I'm not certain about. Doughty's out. It just in all those road games, but yet here they are. They're leading the Pacific Division with 19 points.
Yeah, surprised. I don't know if I'm going to say surprised, because it's always been a pretty good team, but everybody was concerned certainly about their roster. And then when Doughty goes down, Clark stepped up, played well for them. Next man up mentality. And
he's a good young player.
He's a good young player, but that's a big loss on the back end.
No doubt.
He's their guy. A lot of things run through Drew Doughty on the back end as far as power play, penalty kill. So they've done an excellent job. And I will say this. I listened to Jim Hiller in the offseason, and some people thought, is he the right guy moving forward for this LA Kings team? And not a lot of experience as head coach in National Hockey, but he's been around a long time. I listened to him intently. I loved his demeanor. I loved what the message he was sending and what he expected from his team and how he was going to implement how he thinks they should play. And so far, so good. I just thought he was even-keeled, had a good message. And I listen to those things in the offseason from a coach. I'm going, no, this guy deserves a chance.
Yeah.
Did pretty well with him when he took over. I know it didn't work out as well as they'd like in the playoffs, but certainly in the regular season it didn't, and he deserved to be the bench boss, and I think he's doing a really good job.
Yeah, so the LA Kings off to a really good start to the season, albeit a lot of it away from home on the road. So really impressive win over Minnesota on Tuesday night. Let's talk about the Avalanche, because it was a rough start for the Avalanche, but they get a nice performance in this game against the Seattle Kraken last night. McKinnon, what could I say? I mean, 5 assists, and just extends that streak that he's had, scoring a point in each of the team's games right from the start of the opening season. Now 13 consecutive games for Nate the Great.
I mean, just watching him, and I was a defenseman for a long time in this league.
You would have loved to see him come flying at you.
I get nervous just watching him. I'm going, for any player that's on the ice trying to defend him, with those hands, speed, edge work, power. We just sit there in the slot, you're going, do I go to him? Do I hang on? Because he's sticking out at 90 miles an hour with complete control. And then, oh yeah, he's going to dish a little saucer pass in the slot for a goal. Or is he going to rip one with that unbelievable shot? Or is he going to spin away from you? There's just so many things.
A lot of tools in the toolbox for
player.
Nate McKinnon.
I mean, as explosive as it gets, as fun a player to watch in the National Hockey League for me. But yeah, if he's playing my team, and I cover the Devils, as we know, or just watching him in general, I'm nervous for the defenseman or whoever's trying to defend him, because he's going to make you look silly 50% of the time, maybe more.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when you watch a game, and like you're calling the games or watching them on TV, or sometimes you're in the building and just maybe you might be there seeing another team, but when you see him, he gets wound up in that defensive zone. When he's able to kind of get those little mini crossovers going and get up the ice, there's very few things as electrifying live in the National Hockey League right now than seeing Nate McKinnon when he comes out of his own end with a head of steam.
And that's why I think a lot of defensemen's knees are wobbling when he gets wound up, because not only is he getting those crossovers going in that power and speed, his hands are moving just as quickly, and his mind is working all in unison. It's hard to do. Connor McDavid, very similar, maybe not a little different style from the power standpoint, but great skaters, the hands going 90 miles an hour, and the brain and everything working together that to make a play. That's sometimes impossible to do.
Yeah, special player. Arturi Lehkonen came back. He played well, so that's the good news. But the bad news is that McKinnon's sidekick, Cale Makar, he got dinged up. Doesn't seem to be too bad. You can see him over here, but he didn't play. I think he played one shift in the third period. You can see him flexing that right leg and kind of feeling that inside, maybe the groin area there. So he looks very careful there, Dano. I'm not so sure. That looks like we might not see him for a few games.
Well, I usually hate to speculate, and we're not doctors, but yeah, he went right inside the right leg, which groin, stomach, whatever it may be, and obviously
core injury of some sort.
Just pray it's nothing too serious, and he just had a little scare, tweaked something, but it didn't look good. He was uncomfortable for sure, and they need Cale Makar. What a start he's had again, and start to his career. I mean, this guy is one of the greats. Already to be all time on the back end. And he's shown that with his numbers comparable to the Bobby Orr, Paul Coffey's, all the great players.
No question. Here's a tweet from Corey Matzak, who covers the team. Avalanche coach Jared Bednar says Makar is okay and is a possibility to play tomorrow night. And he says Alexander Georgiev will play against the Jets. We're talking about that matchup coming up, so that's some. I'm sure the Jets are hoping. Cale, take a day off. You don't want to push it here, you know, against us, but hockey fans, we want to see Cale Makar back as soon as possible. He is such a unique player, and to your point, I mean, you don't often talk about anyone in the same breath as Bobby Orr amongst defensemen, but he's right there.
He absolutely is, and that's just over 300 games, whatever it is, in his career. But I've seen enough, and because it's going to continue, don't get me wrong, and he's going to set records and do all the amazing things and special things offensively. But what I love as well, that he can defend.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the, as Bobby Orr could,
Yeah.
and Paul Coffey was.
Well, when you have
as
the puck all the time, you don't
that's
have
how
to
you
defend as much.
But gee, he thinks the game so well.
Yeah.
There's so many things he does, and the escapability out of his own zone. Like he's a one-man exit out of his zone, and that's the way the game's gone. A lot of defensemen, we see that more and more now. Just the capabilities they have of maneuvering with the puck, but he's another level.
Yeah.
I mean, the skating ability, the edge work, the hands, the hockey IQ. Another guy, we just talked about Nate McKinnon.
Yeah.
Well, they've got two of them on the one
Same
team
team,
that they're worth the price of admission every night for any hockey fan.
Yep.
So that was good to hear that he
looks like
possibly
could
be ready.
play on Thursday night against the Winnipeg Jets.
Where's he going to go? I mean, I was going to ask you, like, we're just talking.
Yeah.
So when it's all said and done, and that's a long ways away
Yeah.
for Cale Makar.
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to be the top offensive point getter of all time, possibly?
For defensemen?
For defensemen.
Well, I mean, we'll see how long he gets to play, but, you know,
Throwing
he
it
certainly could be in the mix for that. I mean, he's that kind of skilled player. I mean, you said it. You played the position. You know, the edge work, his ability to kind of show so much deception in his game. He can shoot it. He sees it so well, so he might well be near the very top, if not at the top.
And especially
list when it's all said and done.
of the 80s, you know, where it was a high-scoring league, but different era. But now, and Paul Coffey was so special.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody skated like him. He
No.
skated for that era. He made guys look like they were in slow motion, and he got kind of that long stride and wound up. Makar, now that we're seeing more offense too, when it's all said and done, if he stays healthy, he could be the number one.
Could be.
Eventually.
Well, I got another great player for you. Let's show you the Wednesday schedule tonight. We only have 3 games on the docket, and you can see them here. Predators Caps at 7, Wings and Blackhawks on TNT at 8, and then at 8:30, the Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. That should be a good one in Edmonton. And the great player I was referring to, that guy, Connor McDavid. He's back! Yes, after missing a couple of games. I'm sure he got your note to rest and stay away from the Devils when they just recently came through Edmonton, so he rested for that one.
Did us a favor.
Took a break on you, and well, Jasper Bratt just owns the Oilers, but that's a story for another day. But good to see Connor McDavid back in and right into the mix in a challenge against the Vegas Golden Knights, who are off to a good start as well. Eichel versus McDavid.
Eichel versus McDavid. Golden Knights are the Golden Knights, although it's been really home heavy as far as their success. They haven't been real good on the road. Edmonton trying to find their way again. I mean, they're last in the penalty kill. That has to improve.
And they were so, Dano, they were so good in the second half of the
and in the playoffs, they were lights out.
In the final, they were a plus shorthanded. They got a couple of shorthanded goals. They weren't giving up anything. It is amazing to look at it and see them at the bottom after what we saw in the playoffs last year, and particularly in the final, how good they were. Like, what happens that they just fall apart like that? Is it focus?
It's a slow start, obviously, and just everybody not being the penalty kill. And that was my job throughout my career, and played with Scott Stevens as a partner for, I think, 12, 13 years together. And
that must have been fun.
It was like second nature. And who wouldn't want to play with Scott Stevens on the penalty kill? But when you get in sync and you just feel. Go ahead, take your best shot. Well, you're not scoring on us. You know what I mean? Because we're the chemistry, and with the Maddens and Pandolfos up front, or whoever it was at the time, they were a nice little dynamic duo
no
on the
question.
penalty
You
kill.
guys had great penalty kills.
Penalty kills, and you just get in sync. So obviously, all of a sudden now Edmonton hasn't found it this season. A lot to do with. At times, they say your goaltender has to be your best penalty killer, too. They bail you out a lot. Hasn't been as solid or consistent this year. I do think Edmonton will find their way, though. Sooner than later. They haven't scored many goals. They're too offensively talented. Can't just be Leon Draisaitl. Obviously, McDavid coming back is going to be huge. But they just need everybody to pick it up again. But they were in the same spot kind of last year, weren't they? They dug out of it a little bit here.
They're better now. I mean, they're better than they were last year. I mean, they're 6-6-1. Last year, I mean, they were
3-9 and
at this time of the year, they were firing the coach last year, early in November, and it was not good for them. You can see a look at the projected lines there, the new pieces that are in there. McDavid on that line with Zach Hyman and Jeff Skinner, and Hyman is kind of finding his way. He had a really slow start. And you can see the rest of that group there. Pot Coles and the young player that came over from the Canucks, now playing with Draisaitl and Arvidsson. There's
Well, he's the
depth
new
there.
Dave Semenko.
Yeah, I know. I saw
Did
him.
you see that
I saw
punch?
that punch. There's McDavid as he's practicing, and he looks fine. He
Yeah,
looks
look at the
fine.
crossovers. Look at the
Yeah.
forward, backward, flying like he always does. And, you know, sometimes when you miss a few games, when you're the greatest player in the world, or anybody for that matter, but the greatest player in the world, and the team's hovering around 500, and they're just coming off a 3-0 loss and a shutout, and they won 2 games without him in the lineup. That happens a lot short term.
Yeah, short
because
term, right?
everybody's more on high alert that, well, we're missing our best player in the game. We've really got to tighten up and do everything from a defensive standpoint to goals to winning any way we can without having the luxury of having the skill sets of Connor McDavid. But in long term, it kills you. Their record's well under 500 without him out of the lineup. Draisaitl stepped up. He always does. The other half of that dynamic duo.
Yeah.
But I think Connor McDavid is going to come back with a vengeance. Even just missing 2 games. Because, you know, it's been a little slow start from his standards from an offensive standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's just ready to
Well, we won't be surprised.
take off. And you saw the way the determination. I just saw it in him skating that little clips he shot. We just showed in the pregame morning skate, I believe it was, or whatever.
He'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
And it'll be a good matchup against Vegas. And you pointed it out, Vegas, they're perfect 8-0 at home, 0-3-1 on the road. This one on the road tonight in Edmonton, the Golden Knights and the Oilers. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about the Washington Capitals. They are playing pretty well this season. They're in action tonight. We'll talk Caps. Why is it going so well in D.C.? That's next on First Shift. So, we get a little news out of D.C. This tweet from Sammy Silver. Matt Roy is on the ice in a regular jersey and gets some stick taps. Looks like he's back in for the Caps against the Preds. Jacob Chychrun left the ice, but good sign to see him practicing in the morning. So Matt Roy, who got hurt in the very first game of the season.
I was
Dano,
there.
Against your New Jersey Devils. He's missed the last 10, but come over as a free agent from the LA Kings, and he's back in. You can see the projected pairs, and this is without Chychrun. When you add Chychrun to that mix, boy, that's a pretty good group there. And the Capitals have been playing some really good hockey, especially at home, winning 6 straight at home, Dano, and 31 goals in that stretch. I mean, these guys, they're lighting it up. Why are they? You've seen them twice now. Why do you think the Washington Capitals are out of the gate so quickly?
Okay, last year they did it smoke and mirrors, no question about it. Goaltending was everything. Their goal differential we talked about just didn't make sense how they made
Charlie
the playoffs.
Lindgren came on late and was really
Right.
good.
Well, that's not the case this year. It's not smoke and mirrors. Second most 5-on-5 goals in the National Hockey League with 34. I am shocked. 8-3 record that their power play
Is dead last.
Dead last in the league. Imagine when that gets going.
Yeah.
And how can you be dead last with Ovechkin and he's heated up? The balanced scoring, the reclamation projects, and I'll consider Dylan Strome, even though he was 3rd overall pick, still a reclamation project coming over from Chicago.
Yep.
Had a good year last year, but 20
Leading
points.
the team in scoring this
20
year.
points or 17 points.
He was
this
funny.
year in 11
He
games.
said, when you're playing with a guy who has 860 goals, just get him the puck. So good
You look at the
thinking. He's
lineup.
playing there with Protop.
Always loved
and
Tom
Ovi.
Wilson.
Yep.
Prota's playing great. McMichael taking another step as a young player.
Yep.
Dubois, doesn't have a whole lot going on offensively, but still big, strong centerman. 1-6, 7 points on the year. I'm sure he's going to improve in that. So everybody has chipped in.
Yeah.
They score goals this year.
You like that DeHaan probably at the bottom of the
Hand
lineup
can
there.
skate,
Yeah.
plays physical. So a nice little bounce. Verana's come back to Washington. Didn't even know if he'd be in the National Hockey League, chipping in a little bit, just enough. Tom Wilson, one of the elite power forwards in the game.
Yep.
For me, love the way he plays every night. Now he's continually improving his hands and his goal scoring and everything else.
He's healthy this year, too. He's been dealing with some injuries last couple of years. He's healthy. He's a unicorn. He's a special player in the league. People on other teams, they don't want to hear it. They don't like it.
Yeah.
He comes in, he's a villain. He hits your team. He hits guys on your team. He's nasty. He'll fight. But I'll tell you, There's 32 teams, so that means there's
he's a
32
beast.
teams that would love to have Tom Wilson.
I mean, just walking by him sometimes in the morning skates, I'm like, the guy's a beast. He should be playing in my era where we all look like football
there
players.
you go.
You know what I mean? But great shot,
Yeah.
good set of hands, kills penalties.
Straight lines to the net.
So you asked me why Washington's so successful. They're a meat and potatoes type team with obviously the great 8, and he's turned it up. You know, going to break Gretzky's all-time goal record eventually. But they play a north-south game. They're big. They're heavy. They just get to the net. Sometimes not real fancy, but they put the puck in the back of the net because they create turnovers. They play hard on the boards, win a lot of puck battles, all the little things that are still important in today's game.
Always important.
Despite where everything's evolved and we see the speed and skill and finesse. They do it more north-south for me. You mentioned their defense. That's an area where they're way better than I thought they'd be. And then you look at the 6 defensemen,
John
7
Carlson
defensemen.
just keeps getting it done
Elite.
back there,
John
right?
Carlson, one of the elite defensemen.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Fame. Probably doesn't get enough recognition, even though
Well, he's
talk about him
overshadowed
quite a
over
bit.
the years by Ovechkin and Backstrom and Kuznetsov and some of the other great players. And really, quite frankly, John Carlson isn't one of those guys that toots his own horn. He just goes out and plays night after night after night, plays big minutes. When he's out of the lineup for the Capitals, then it's a struggle. He's back playing again, healthy. Remember a couple years ago he had an injury. It was a struggle for them. When he's back playing and healthy, he's an important piece of the puzzle.
I like to say there's a handful of teams that have a general on the back end. Like he's the general, whether it's the power play, whether it's settling things down. He's so calm with the puck, has that big shot, or the penalty kill, plays in every situation, logs so much time in the back. And he's been around a long time. I don't know how many years it is now, but he's still, I watched him 2 games against the Devils, and every time he had the puck, I mean, the little fade away, hang on, no look pass, perfect, or the quick snapshot that finds its way in the back of the net. His favorite play, and I always tell guys, why don't you try to defend this? You haven't watched tape for the last 10 years. So he gets it at the blue line in the offensive zone. Chips it, jumps around you, gets the return pass, blasts it top shelf past the goaltender 90% of the time. I'm going, why do you bite for that forward? You got to stay a foot off. John Carlson's going to chip it to the half-wall guy, jump by you, get it right back in his tape, and rip it. And it's usually in the back of net. That's one of a set play I've seen for years from nobody can defend it.
Well, we'll see if the Nashville Predators can figure it out tonight. And, you know, look at the Preds here. You know, they lost their first 5. They're 4-2-1 since then, so it's not bad. You can see the penalty killing is very good. They're giving up too many goals at this point, not scoring enough. Stamkos has struggled. And Barry Trotz, I think he's kind of coming maybe to the end of his rope early in the season. Let's take a listen to Barry Trotz and his thoughts on where things are at.
If we don't get it going, then I'm going to start our rebuild plan a little bit. What we did in the summer was, as I say, fantasy hockey until we become a good team. If we do not become a good team, then, you know, we're going to see a lot more of our kids starting their process. We brought in the veteran players to extend this year and be a threat. And then hopefully in the next coming years, our young guys come in and they take a bigger role. If we fall out into a position where we fall out and it's not happening or it doesn't come together, then we're going to shake it up if we don't get going pretty soon.
Interesting from Barry
Bold
Trotz.
statement.
The longtime
This early in the
coach
season.
and now general manager. And here are the numbers for some of these acquisitions. It has not been all that great. Look at Steven Stamkos, -10. I mean, that's not the end-all, be-all, but it's not good to be a -10. He only has the 2 goals. Same with Marchessault. We showed a clip from yesterday, Downer, where the 2 guys were coming to the blue line, and Stamkos didn't get the puck to Marchessault. The play went offside. Marchessault was a little, frustrated. Sometimes guys just don't fit together, and you got to figure out other ways to use them. But it's interesting that Barry Trotz is already sending a message like, hey, we'll bring in more young kids and we'll play them more.
That's a real wake-up call, I think, for their entire roster.
How would you feel if Lou, back in the day, now Lou didn't say much, but if he did have a statement like that?
Well, I mean, he sometimes quietly would come in and make a statement that would put you on high alert. And I would assume every player in that room, including the great players in the game for so many years, the Stamkoses, the Marchessaults, and the likes, are going to want to be better. No question about it. Ryan O'Reilly is such a great leader. He says that Last game was probably the worst game he's played.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a response from the Predators. I do, because it's still pretty early in the season. I get you can't fall too far behind. Everybody's going to have to pick up their game, and sometimes it takes longer for certain players you mentioned to find that chemistry, whether it's the star players like Marchessault and Stamkos, and they have been star players in this league in previous years, and sometimes it just doesn't fit. You're right, EJ, but for Barry Trotz to come out and say that 12 games into the season tells me a lot, that he expected so much more. It hasn't materialized yet, and it's got to happen right now, guys. So I think he's putting that pressure on the players, which is a good thing, by the way. I didn't mind that kind of pressure as a player. Like, Ken, you're playing real bad. You know, when they
Get her going.
When they wouldn't mince words as coaches, whether it was individually or collectively, and he said it the best. But if you just take me in a room and say, you know,
wake up, Dano.
You know, they put pressure on you.
That's late nights.
A good pressure.
Wake up.
So, let's go.
Let's
Play
go.
better.
Let's go.
Now, Barry Trotz is sending that message to his entire roster that, guys, we got to be better as a team. We expected more. We're not where we want to be. Let's see how it goes tonight.
Well, the Preds have won 11 of their last 14 games against the Capitals, including 6 of 7 in D.C., so we'll see if that gets them going tonight. When we come back, Steve Kouleas will join us to talk a little bit about the physical nature of the Toronto Maple Leafs game last night. Cooley, next here on First Shift.
Let's play harder and work harder than them. We can control those things, how hard we work, how hard we compete. Great special teams tonight. Penalty kill was excellent. Power play, 3 goals. We didn't frack, we stayed with it. We're physical, we made them react in the second period. Drew some penalty, got some power play goals because of it, because you're a physical in the first period. And that's what we got to do against them, every team. We're physical like that, we get people off the game. Stoley, hell of a
Great effort, great bounce back. This is an easy one. Our guy Stoley. 12 a game, boys. Let's keep this rolling. You know, play hard, 60 minutes, and win a lot of games. Let's go.
And it was a good night in Toronto for the Leafs. They beat the Bruins 4-0. It was 2 years to the day that the Leafs had last beaten the Bruins in regulation in the regular season. So a nice win for the Boston Bruins. And with that, we bring in our guy, Steve Kouleas from NHL Radio. And Cooley, you heard there Craig Berube talking about physicality. You tend to agree with him, right? The Leafs need to be physical in these games, especially if they're going to beat Boston in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I know this is going to make Kenny smile. Good to see you, Kenny. The definition of I'm doing great. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result. So in comes Craig Berube and the Maple Leafs adding some grit to their lineup, especially on the back end that they didn't have before. They have to stop getting bullied by the Boston Bruins. And in a 1-game sample size, having all the other boxes checked, special teams, goaltending, 5-on-5 play, they have to get to the line or sometimes cross it. The Pacioretty check. They didn't call a penalty on the play after reviewing it. Maybe there should have been. The physicality here on 88, so they have to watch all the time. David Pastrnak. And then this play is a penalty, but right, Kenny? So what? Be the hammer, not the nail, and you can beg for forgiveness afterwards. It's no coincidence they finally beat the Bruins by playing this way, and they almost beat them in Boston a couple weeks ago in overtime. So if they want something to change, gentlemen, something has to change: physicality.
And I love what Berube said after game to his team. You want to get a reaction. I mean, that's sometimes why you bring that physicality, right, Cooley? Yep. You want your team engaged, involved. Yeah, that was not a clean hit from Tanev there on Pastrnak, but you're going to show your team and the Bruins that we're not going to take any prisoners even against your top players. That shows you're engaged, even though you took a penalty, but that made Boston react, and that's what can throw teams off their game.
Well, what did Sam Bennett do to Brad Marchand? He got away with fist of God. What did Marchand do to Liljegren? Accidentally took him out in the. So that's hockey. I mean, Kenny, have you ever? I saw you on Seinfeld hitting Alexei Kovalev. I don't know if that was a clean check or not. I don't know if it was a clean check or not. So, and there's other types of physicality. For Mitch Marner and William Nylander, the physicality of playing tough for them is dropping your right shoulder and getting to the front of the net, not playing ring around the rosy. And Nylander's done a better job of getting to the front of the net in the playoffs than Marner has. But if that doesn't change either, right? It's not about fighting everybody. It's what do you do to be tough? If you're 5'7", 150 like me, it's about going to the danger area and trying to pay a price and make a play. So there's a difference between the Ken Danicos, the Ryan Reeves, the Tanevs, and the Mitch Marners. They all have to row in the same direction. Kenny, you did and won 3 Stanley Cups.
There you go.
That's a great point, because I'm going to go back to my era where I understand everything's evolved, but the more it changes, the more it stays the same. Kind of what you're saying, Cooley. Come playoff time, come crunch time, certainly Dino Ciccarelli. Not big in stature, but, man, he was not afraid to get to the front of the net, where we were allowed to absolutely abuse him in front with cross checks, no penalties.
You beat the daylights out of him.
It didn't.
But he stayed there. He didn't go anywhere.
And he only went on to score 600 goals during his career.
He did okay
because of it.
Yeah, he did okay. But I want to get you to the Hurricanes, because they're off to a really good start too. And you've been impressed with the additions that they've brought in, because they had so many people. We talked about guys leaving the Canes. They had to replace those players, and so far those guys are playing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, nothing against Shane Gostisbehere, Jack Roslovic, Jackson Blake, Eric Robinson. Sean Walker's been quietly good, like he's kind of the new Brett Pesce. But last night, Roslovic scored his 7th. Blake's up to 6 points. Eric Robinson, most people don't even know who he is. He also scored last night.
From New Jersey. From New Jersey.
Yeah, and look, I don't know if this is all going to last, but Gostisbehere had to come in, as did Walker, and make up for the loss of Shea and Pesce. Those are big losses, and so far, they're getting clutch performances, and Natchez has been lights out to help Svechnikov, Aho, and Jarvis. So they've won, 7 in a row? They're in first place. I thought the Canes would probably be 3rd, or if somebody could bump them to 4th. Right now, they're like a bicycle wheel, the spokes of a wheel. They're better all together than they are individually. And BJ and Kenny, it shows right here.
Yeah. And most of us thought before the season, because of the guys they lost in the offseason, that they were going to dip a little bit. And with Carolina, I mean, it goes back to Rod Brind'Amour, doesn't it? I mean, he's one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League. The old saying, and I played on some teams like this, interchangeable parts, nothing changes. We think they've dipped from a talent perspective in the offseason, but they haven't missed a beat, and they've won, 7 in a row now, and they just play the same way consistently every night. I give Rod Brind'Amour a ton of credit there. And all those guys you showed that maybe we didn't know a whole lot about or didn't think they'd have a big impact, whether it's Roslovic or Gostisbehere or Robinson, they've all played pretty damn well, haven't they?
You know what?
And that's what you want.
You know what's funny, Cooley, is that we had Eric Tulsky, the GM of the Canes, on the show earlier in the week, and he talked about that process of replacing the players, and he really gave credit to the scouts. He said, we have an idea of, who we think will fit, and it'd be a good fit for us and a good fit for the player. And so we try to match up the data, but he really pointed to the scouts. He said they did a really nice job, and so far it is paying off for them.
Yeah, and I got to give them credit as well. I mean, we've seen Jack Roslovic in Columbus play all 13 forward positions. You say 13?
Yeah.
Press box. Yeah. I mean, he was the first-line center, and then the 13th forward and didn't play, went to the Rangers. Okay, maybe that's too high in the lineup, but at least he's a body that can contribute. He'll go through slumps like everybody else. And you know what? We always talk about amateur scouting, but pro scouting, it might be more fun because you see a red tomato than a green tomato, and you got to make the right decision, because if you got 2 or 3 of these wrong, they wouldn't be in the position that they're in, and you've already paid them. And in a capped world, gentlemen, you're pot committed. So I say bravo right now, heading into U.S. Thanksgiving soon with what Carolina's done. Wow.
All right, let's get to the Colorado Avalanche, because it's been an up and down start for them, but it hasn't been up and down for McKinnon and Makar. They are on pace for kind of a crazy season there, Cooley.
Well, I hope Makar's not seriously hurt.
Yeah.
This is our wheelhouse. You know what they're doing? They're playing like Gretzky and Coffey. They're playing like Orr and Espo,
Yeah.
who, folks, 5 times finished 1-2 in league scoring. 5 times, 4 with 100 points together or more. Espo 1 year had 99. Only 99 1 year. The last time we had a defenseman and a forward 1-2 or 2-1 in scoring was Gretzky 205, Coffey 126. If Makar gets to the number he's on right now, he would smash Orr and Coffey's record, EJ, for most points in a season. And if they were to finish 1-2, oh my goodness, it gives me goosebumps to bring back this type of stats and offense in the era that we're seeing right now to a blast from the past.
That's pretty good company, the guys that you just mentioned, or Esposito. I love it because I love the history and going back as well. Coffey, Gretzky, you can go on down the list back in the day, Cooley, but they've had their struggles, no question about it. Injuries has been part of that. But when you have a Makar, a McKinnon, you're usually going to get out of it sooner than later. They can't stop pucks, though. They can't play goal, unfortunately. They've struggled there a little bit. So if that balances out, they get a little better, which I assume they are, and they get healthier. They're starting to get healthier, unfortunately. Let's hope Makar's not out too long, like you had mentioned. But Colorado will be a team to be reckoned with eventually after that really tough start.
Yeah, those are some great names you brought up there. I love that.
Oh, I do too. It's great.
Yeah, and to have the last 2, defensemen and forward get 100 points in a year was Messier the year he won the Hart in New York at 107, and Leach was right there, at 102. So it's sexy to have defensemen who could get 100 points. We talked about it with Erik Karlsson when he became, the 15th time a defenseman did it. But it is a lot of fun. I hope Makar is healthy, and eventually, Kenny, as you said, remember when the Oilers did it and the Rangers did it, and what we just talked about with Orr and Espo, they won cups doing it for the most part. So that's the difference. The Avs, Kenny, have to pick things up.
Cooley, I have to throw out, since you're from Toronto, we just talked the Leafs, maybe not as gaudy numbers, but Salming Sittler. How about that?
Not good.
Not as sexy. But I love those two guys.
Good.
That was my team back then as an 8-year-old kid.
But not as
I like it.
I understand. Hey, Cooley,
All right, I'll
before
accept
we let
that.
you go, Cooley, what do you have a prediction for tonight? Do you have your lamp there? What do you got?
Well, I'm actually struggling a bit out of the gate, so I'm going to pause on a prediction.
Okay.
Instead, I promised it's close to Christmas, and I dug this up. Ladies and gentlemen, right in time for Christmas, Score the Hockey musical. The New York Times says heartwarming. The Toronto Star says a great crowd pleaser starring the late, great Olivia Newton-John, who passed away. You can see me right there. That's not really my picture. It's George Stroumboulopoulos. I just put my cutout over top of it. But
Nice.
yeah, for $9.99, it can be yours. I get 2 cents for every $10 sold.
There you go. Very nice. So I didn't know this was QVC today, but hey, what the heck. Cooley, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. Go have some fun for the rest of the day.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Great being with you, Cooley.
All right, there he goes.
That was a young Steve Cooley's there in the pick.
I know, but he taped it over someone else. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Ottawa Senators' tough night in Buffalo. That's coming up next on First Shift. Here's a peek at the Atlantic Division standings, and same old, same old. Florida, Toronto, Tampa, Boston, the top 4. And then the next 4, Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo, and Montreal. And last night, 2 of those bottom 4 met, the Senators and the Sabres. And it was the Sabres who put a little beat down on the Ottawa Senators, which the Senators are 6-6 so far.
That whole division's pretty well 500.
Yeah, 5-1 at home, 1-5 on the road, and you can see they're home for the New York Islanders coming up, an injury-plagued New York Islanders team. So then they go back out on the road for Boston and Toronto. I mean, the Ottawa Senators, I'm waiting for this thing to take off. I love a lot of their players. They added the goaltender in Olmark this year. What do you think about the Sens? Are they going to make that push finally?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, that whole division's kind of 500, so they're still right there.
Yeah.
They want to take that leap, right? As the Sabres do as well. Not a good showing last night. You got to start winning some games on the road. You can't just be a a home team if you're going to be a playoff team. You've got to show that you can win on the road. You can't have that discrepancy that we're showing on this board here.
Goal more per game on the road.
This is a team that we know all this young talent, they can score. For me, it was, can they defend better? Can their play away from the puck be better? Puck management as well. To go along with all that great offense, to balance it out and understand what it takes to be a more consistent team. Love their team, love their lineup.
Yeah.
Thought they were going to be better in goal, hasn't really materialized yet. Forsberg's been pretty good. Ullmark ultimately hasn't been good enough just yet. They have given up 5 less goals. Our crack research gave me that, and that's what I wanted to look into, than last year after 12 games.
Well, that's good.
That's not a huge increase, but I think if their goaltending settles in, I think Ullmark's got to get better, right? He's too good of a goaltender.
Yeah. He's had some a little bit of a little injuries, little tweaks. So
I think he will find it, and I do think Ottawa could challenge for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
but I agree with your statement coming out of this, right out of the gate, Eej. Here we go again.
Yeah.
What are Ottawa? They're 500 right now.
yeah.
Got a good lineup. Are they getting better away from the puck? I like Travis Green, but a lot of times, again, comes down to goaltending.
Yeah.
They didn't have very good goaltending last year. If Ullmark gets going, and Forsberg's been pretty good, but then you've got a really good duo.
Yeah, then you're good to
Tandem,
go.
yeah.
And, on that home road split, at home, their special teams were really good. On the road, been terrible.
Yeah, got to be better.
Got to be better.
No question.
Got to be better.
Got to find that consistency. You can't just be a home team with all that talent and, show your home fans, oh, look how good we are, and then go on the road and lose 5-1 to the Buffalo Sabres. You've got to find that a little bit. I still want to wait and see. I know it's been a while. We've been waiting a few years for the Ottawa Senators. I do like their team, but the commitment has to be there in all 3 zones.
Yeah, we will see. They got the Islanders on Thursday night. Quick promo for us. We've got the rivalry series tonight. The women are at it. Team Canada, Team USA, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Check it out right here on the NHL Network. And also, we got a big day tomorrow on our program. Big reveal. We're going to have all 6 jerseys from the PWHL. They're going to be right here behind us on our first shift shelf, so to speak. So we'll have the reveal. They know where to go when they want the big presentation.
I'm going to be going to my home barn, the Prudential, to watch some games. That's where
women's team playing. That's right.
Yeah.
Sirens.
Sirens.
Yeah, there you go.
I can't wait to see some games. Excited.
All right. Well, Dano, nice to have you here, buddy.
Love being with you.
All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. NHL Now is next. Yeah.